to the garden, or should I say conservatory. So today, all I want to talk about is March gardening, March seeds, and all that good stuff. So I am going to show you all the different sort of seeds that I'm going to sow in March. However, I just want to touch upon just seeds in general, cuttings and things to get going in March. Bit of myths around what you need and what you don't need. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So certain people have certain things to grow in. So one of the biggest sort of misconceptions with gardening, or maybe put-offs, would be things that you haven't got. So you haven't got a greenhouse, you haven't got a conservatory. The one thing I can guarantee is you probably have a windowsill, right? So maybe a balcony or whatever, so you'll definitely have some form of windowsill. I highly recommend that any seed sowing that you do within March just goes onto a windowsill, even if you do have a greenhouse which isn't heated, or even if you do have like a cold greenhouse or conservatory. Just get them going on the windowsill. They don't take up much room, so I'm going to show you a way to sow multiple seeds into multiple pots to maximise what you can really get out of it. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So this is what I mean. So here we've got eight modules. So we call these modules. I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but there we go. And then obviously we've got 6 in here, and so on and so on. So what I will do in one module, in one singular, is I'll put probably 6 or 7 seeds. Okay, so whatever it is. So for example, I'm going to do some rainbow chard. So within my rainbow chard, I'll have probably four or 5 seeds in each one. Okay, you could have many more, as many as you really require, but it'd just be a case of we'll have to prick them out, which I can show you how to do after this. However, you don't have to put 1 in for each. So therefore, if you think that there is going to go in the windowsill, and maybe 4 of them would fill a windowsill, well then that's great, because if you're doing 5 in each module, 5, 10, 20, like honestly, you'll have hundreds of seedlings just in one windowsill. Quick tip for compost. So what I do is I actually tip all my compost out. I'm quite lucky. I do have this stand within my conservatory, but I do tip out all my compost to dry it out a little bit, because seeds do not like wet and cold compost. So that's one thing to bear in mind when you're watering. Don't give them too much. That's probably too dry now, but obviously we'll water it when we're done. So that's a quick tip. If you've got somewhere that we can do that, fantastic. It's not an absolute must, but it's just a good little trick. So before I talk about seeds, I'd highly recommend you get yourself a tin. So for every pack of seeds that you probably have, you're not going to sow every single seed. So you're going to want somewhere to put them. Somewhere waterproof. I just keep mine in the cupboard. You can probably hear there, I don't do a very good job at sealing the packets. But that's a good trick. Keep them somewhere safe, somewhere dry, just so you can always come back to them. And just before we get into the physical planting, so every seed packet will have a sow date and the bloom date and all that sort of good stuff. But these are just guidelines, okay? March, fantastic time to start your seeds if you've got a heated greenhouse. If you've got all the space in the world for all these little seedlings that are going to come on. Of course it's going to give you a head start, and I don't disagree with that. But seeds have a really good way, and seedlings have a really good way of catching up. So if you don't sow anything early March, or even for the whole of March, when you do get them into April, you'll be behind, granted, but plants will catch up. They have this amazing thing there. They'll just soon realise that it's warmer, it's better, and they will catch up. So mine are going in a cold conservatory, which is like a cold greenhouse, so they're going to be slow. Okay, someone who's got a heated greenhouse will go in the house, and they're going to romp away. But that's not always a good thing. So if you're stretching your plants, so if it's warm and they want to go to the sun, then you don't always get the healthiest of seedlings really, and plants. So they'll rush to it, and they'll be almost like a spindly version of really what you're trying to achieve. So the best thing for it would be to germinate them on a windowsill, but quickly bring them into your greenhouse where it's not overly warm, so that you can sort of slow down and get with your climate. Because wherever you are in the world, that's your climate and it's no one else's. I'm going to grow something. I'm in the Midlands of the UK, and it's not particularly warm by any means, but someone south of me is going to grow things slightly quicker. Obviously someone north of me, it's going to be slower, so you're going to have to go at your own pace. I've waffled enough, let's do some practical stuff. So I am going to use this. Again, you can use anything you like, really. So a good one when I first started was when I went to Tesco or whatever, I would literally buy mushrooms and keep them packs, and I'd use them to sow multiple seeds into there. So they're a good little one. I am fortunate because I've got this little setup just here, but like I say, if you're going for a windowsill, it doesn't have to be this big. This holds 100 cells, okay, so 100 modules. So, you know, I can drop 5 seeds in each, and obviously I've got some really good numbers on my hands. So what I use is a multi-purpose compost. I don't use a seed compost. You can do. Again, I've dried it out a little bit, so I'll use this. What I tend to do is I just break it up with my hands a little bit, because it can have big bits like this in, which aren't going to be any good for your germination. Professional gardeners, although I'd like to call myself a professional gardener, use sieves, okay, and things like that, professional sieves, to break it up. But I feel like we don't really need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with compost, and we'll go through the seeds. There we have the 100 cells. Excuse me, I'll drop my dibber. So I'm going to go ahead and make holes in every single one. So you don't need to watch me do that. So let's fast forward that one. I feel like that's all we're saying, and there we have it for this one. So let's start talking about some of the seeds. So first one is going to be sweet pea. I actually sowed a couple of these about 3 weeks ago, and they're doing amazing. Just did a couple with my kids, but these will quickly follow on. So I'm going to show you what I mean about you sow dates and things. So you colour coded to what you want to do, when you want to sow them, when they flower, and all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do those. So that'll be seed number 1. So my second plant is going to be chard. I use rhubarb chard, but these come in several different colours. They're absolutely amazing, and they're an edible crop. So they do look like a really cool structural small plant within your garden, particularly a tropical theme. However, they're edible as well, so the small leaves are actually perfect for stir fries. So that's my number 2. My number 3 is definitely got to be a pumpkin. So I really do love the architectural leaves on these, but obviously they do a fantastic job for us in October. Several different varieties. I've just gone for the generic F1 variety, but you can have whatever you fancy. I think you can pick them up for about £1. If you're savvy, like I am absolutely not, and you carve your pumpkin out every year, just save the seeds. All you've got to do is put them on a bit of tissue paper, leave them on the windowsill for a week or so, then chuck them in a jar, and that's literally it. So that's my number 3. My number 4 is French marigolds. So these are absolutely amazing. They're brilliant for companion planting. So what I mean by that is they attract the bugs off the plants that you don't want them to eat. So a variety I'm going for is Jolly Jester, and they're absolutely amazing. I absolutely love these. They go a little bit leggy within germination, and they're not the stockiest of plants, but when they're in your bed throughout the season, they do a great job. So that is that one. I'd highly recommend that one, actually. So number 5 is actually amaranthus. I absolutely love these. Again, brilliant germinator. It'll do really well. It'll be slow to beginning, like everything else. Just be patient. So that's my number 5, amaranthus. Love lies bleeding. Number 6. So number 6 for me is going to be Coleus. So sorry I can't show you a picture of that. I might add one in. So Coleus, again, another early one. It'll be slow, like everything else, but it's one that will germinate now. So that's an absolute beauty. That really, you buy it for the foliage and not the flower, but I'd highly recommend this. It's really easy to grow, and obviously you can get it going now. So my next one is sunflower. So there's hundreds of different varieties to choose from. I've gone for this red sunflower. I have actually got the generic yellow as well, so I'll probably do a couple of 3. I won't go overboard with any of these seeds really, so I'm only probably going to put 15 of each in max, and that's way too many, but it's a good opportunity to sort of give out to your friends and your family, and vice versa really. What seeds have they got they can give to you, because obviously that's where we're at with the climate that we're in at the moment financially. But you won't need all these seeds, but that's not really why we grow it, is it? If we're being honest, we just grow it because we need to grow it. So let's get on to the next one. So sort of coming to the end of my list, or wish list if you like. So I'm going to get a couple of vegetables in here now, just something which I do like the look at the leaves, and obviously it gives us something back. So the first one's going to be beetroot. There's a few different varieties of these obviously, but you can have whatever you want. It makes no difference to what time you sow them. March is the perfect time to sow them. All my sowings obviously going to be inside like we've discussed. Let's get on to the final one, and then let's get on to some practical stuff. Last but no means least, it's going to be the broad bean. Okay, so that could have been, to be fair, this could have been a little while sooner, but I know with the cold weather we're having in the UK at the minute, and I don't have a heated greenhouse, that this would be a bit of a slow burner. So no time like the present. That's going to be my final one. Let's get into some practical stuff. And finally, before I bore you too much, please tell me in the comments down below if I waffle on too much, but finally labels. And labels are massive. So what I tend to do is get an old plastic milk bottle and cut that up and just write on with a Sharpie and put in. But if you don't do this, you'll think, I remember whatever order it is, and you don't. And even me as an experienced lad, I'm going to say gardener then, as an experienced gardener, will go and think, yeah, I think that's Coleus. Do you know what I mean? So like labels are the key. So I'm going to go ahead, make a few of them, and then we're all good to go. Been promising you for about an hour, haven't I now, that we're going to do some planting, but we will. You have it? Right, that's a little bit better, isn't it? Let's get cracking. So for me, pumpkins, obviously it's more than just the obvious. It's all about planting, watching them grow, pollinating. To be honest with you, I love the flowers and I love the structural part of the leaves. Halloween is just, sorry, wrong way around, the perfect sort of top off for it all. Next. No particular order, eh? So these Jolly Jester, you're going to get that as well. You're going to drop a lot of seeds over if you're as messy as me. These Jolly Jesters, the colour of the yellow and the red striped flowers are absolutely lovely. Like I say, they stretch a little bit higher than your African marigold. And they seem to me like they're just a little bit spindlier as well. I don't know if that's because maybe I forced them on a little bit too much, but for when I've grown them a couple of times, they're not the thickest of plants. However, the burst of colour within your border is well worth it. So I've had them up to about 12 inches tall. They're not massive, and then they're not a prolific flower either, but the flower will last quite a long time. So that's why I'd highly recommend those. 2 rows of those. I'm going to put Jolly times 2, and then I'll know I've got 2 rows. I know I've got 2 rows anyway, but for my own ignorance. Next one. Next up, sunflowers. And I won't show these side by side purely because 2 different colours. So they're a lot smaller. If you can make that out. They're a lot smaller. Do you know what? I'm going to do 2 rows. We can always give some away, can't we? don't know why I'm shouting things at you. But like I said before, well, these are tiny. Like I said before, Coleus for me, they're an absolute beautiful foliage plant which will tolerate a shady spot within your garden. These will be multiple sowed. Sorry, as I was saying before, they will do a shady spot within your garden or a bright spot, so they're a bit of an all-round berry plant really. Don't need much water. Obviously everything does better with plenty of water during the summer, but this one lives without it. Some of the colours are fantastic. Only one row of that, but multiple in one. Amaranthus. So this has like a deep purple hanging flower. What are you seeing there? They're tiny, but these will be multiple sowed. Yeah, there's about 50 drops in the first one. I'm meant to be good at this, but clearly I love these. So I'm going to have 3 rows of it, even though there'll be plenty of stock. Label my 3 rows, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover these over. Next up, I've actually got beetroot. Let me show you those ones, a little bit different. I'll try and just do one to a sal here with it being veg, but again you can do multiple. With it being a root vegetable though, it's a little bit trickier because obviously the root, disturbing the root, disturbing your crop, but it doesn't really matter, you can take one out and bin it if you have to. A bit wasteful I know, but normally if you've got 2 in one sal and one's doing better, you'll pinch the one what's not doing so great out. So I'm going to try and get one. Just making sure I haven't got my tongue out while I'm concentrating. And I'm going to do a few of these because these will be ace. Thinking about doing a little bit of a veg patch with some new things that's coming up on the channel. I love beetroot. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my next variety of sunflower. I'm not going to put my broad beans in here because broad beans need a deeper pot, but I will sow them today. I think after this is sweet pea, I believe. I'm going to do 10 of these as well, I think. After this a bit of sweet pea. That might take up all my modules then, I think. Now you can soak sunflowers to get a better result. So I used to grow a little bit of microgreens. So if anyone's interested and made it this far in the video, then if they want a microgreens video, then please comment down below that you'd like one, and I shall do one. Even if I get one comment, I shall do one. But yeah, so they used to do really well when I soak the seeds, obviously to break the shell. Obviously I'm not soaking them, but you can do. Normally used to soak them overnight. That's for that one. Sun yellow. Where's my sweet peas? So if you can just see them, there's my sweet peas. They'll finish this module off now. Again, these don't need soaking. I haven't soaked any of these seeds. Sort of bare minimum effort, as my wife says. Not about gardening though, obviously. Let's finish these modules and then we'll wrap up. So just on sweet peas, This is what I did with the kids about 3 weeks ago in February, so it is a good one to do in February. Not as advanced as garden centres because we don't grow them in heat, but obviously these will catch up just nicely. That was it. These will have a good water, and then we'll just summarise. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. That's everything that I would do in March. I wouldn't really do much more. Obviously, towards the end of the month, I'll start adding in some other bits and bobs that I've got growing, which are quicker growing plants. However, something this size, I think, is achievable on any windowsill, and you're probably looking, 500 seedlings if we get it right. So that's absolutely incredible for such a small space. So highly recommend you do it. You can worry about what you're doing with them at a later date, but I've got a plan for that, and I've got another video coming out. So when we get some small baby plants, what we're going to do with them, where we're going to put them, and I've got a plan for that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I always enjoy stuff like this, but it's a bit new to me sharing that with you, so please let me know if you enjoyed it. Until next time, guys, I'll see you in the garden.